Welcome to Land Use Board of October 5th, 2020. We will start by standing and saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all. Okay.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the entrance hall of the Borough Beach Haven Municipal Building and mailing the same to Beach Haven Times and the Asbury Park Press. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision for each individual application. Decorum appropriate to judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call, Mayor Davis. Mr. Cactus.
Here.
Jamie just signed in, so she's here.
Okay.
Mr. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Pisano.
Here.
Mr. Metal. Mr. Muha. Mr. Herensky.
Here.
Mrs. Eddles.
here.
Mr. Genna.
Here.
Mr. Tinquist.
Here.
Mrs. Baxter.
Here.
Mrs. Lenharn.
Here.
Okay.
Is there any way you can see if she's fixed it, Colleen?
Yeah.
Hey, Bonnie, I just got a call from Bill Burris, and he's trying to get on. He couldn't get on.
Can
And
you
I
tell him
told
to
him-
check his email? I just sent him the link.
Okay, let me call him back because he's trying to get on. Apparently, Barb Kona and some other people.
I'm
So,
sure that, there were people that wanted to get on.
well, he's right next door to this application. So,
Yeah.
let me call him. I'm going to put myself on mute and call him back. All right.
Okay.
See if he got the link.
Colleen, have you found anything?
Yeah, I'm launching the meeting just to see if it takes us to our meeting.
Sometimes with Zoom, when you have multiple Zoom meetings, the link will take you to your previous meeting and you have to actually put in the meeting ID and the password.
Okay, so I clicked the link that's on the website and it works now.
So now everybody should be able to get on?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know how we let them know that, but I don't know how that works. All right, let's continue. We've had a roll call. New business. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes? Has everybody read the minutes and I need a motion to approve them?
So move. Penny.
Second?
Second, Jamie.
Mr. Cactus?
I wasn't at the meeting, so I have to.
Oh, that's
abstain.
right. Sorry. Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Pisano?
Yes.
Here. Mr. Herensky?
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles?
Yes.
Mr. Genna?
Yes.
Absent. Mrs. Baxter?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I just, on the last meeting, I lost the 10 minutes due to technical problems. So, I mean, I was there most of the meeting.
Okay, and then Mrs. Lenhard.
Yes. Okay, moving on to the bills. Colleen sends the bills out ahead of time. I hope everybody's had a chance to look at them and can I have a motion to approve the bills?
I make a motion to approve the bills, Don Caxis.
Second, Penny.
Mr. Cactus,
Yes.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano.
Yes.
Tom, we're voting on bills. Do you approve the bill list?
Yes.
Oh, Tom's here.
Mr. Herensky,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Genna,
Yes.
Mr. Tinquist,
Yes.
Mrs. Baxter,
Yes.
and Mrs. Lenhard.
Yes. Okay, moving right along. Now we have escrow returns, application 2020-04 are Jeffrey and Jessica Dieter. I think that's out 219B Norwood in the amount of $1,693.86. And application 2018-17 Ingleside Partners LLC, 103 Pennsylvania Avenue in the amount of $2,070. Do I have a motion to approve those two escrow returns?
I make a motion to approve. Penny.
Tom Metal second.
So Colleen, who are the escrow returns?
Dieter and Ingleside Partners.
What was Ingleside Partners? How long ago was that?
Last month.
That was a couple years ago, Stu. They
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
2018.
Thank you. I'm just getting cleaned up with my billing. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, resolution. We have resolution 2020-13, which is the Amber Street LLC, 435 Amber Street, block 131, lot 13. Everybody get a chance to read Stu's resolution. Are there any questions on it? Any discussion?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Jamie.
So in the resolution, Stu, this is for you. Number 9, the developer stated that adequate draining will be accomplished by gutters, lock grading, and French drains. But that was what the developer stated. So I guess my question to you is, are French drains going to be on a site plan? Because that's not something that we put in, but that was something that the neighbor to the west side was concerned with because of flooding. So I guess
They
for
were-
Frank too, would that be a
They were
question?
concerned with flooding. I did not make it a condition. I could add that as a condition, but the drainage is what they said they were going to do. And when they make certain representations, a lot of it gets lost. So I wrote that down in my notes and included it. So if I don't know if I put it in as a condition, if not, I could add it too as a condition because we don't mandate that in town. I mean, you have your drainage, you're responsible to drain on your own property.
Right, it's
Frank-
not, it's not a condition. We didn't write it in as a condition because
And I think I should. I'll amend it and I'll send it over as a condition. If the board agree with that, or Frank, would you agree with
Yeah,
that?
I think just the concern was that we wanted to have something in there to make sure that they don't create an impact on the adjoiner. And I know when you go for a building permit, they require you to sign a statement for that also. But why don't you put it in there, Stu? It's
I'll
not.
put it in, while we're going through the meeting, I'll put it in and I'll send it out. I can add it as a paragraph in the resolution right now. I mean, I have them on my computer. I can do that.
So you want to come back and that you write that up and we'll come back to this
Yeah, I'm
resolution?
going to send it to you in around 5 minutes if I can.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the application 2020-15, Judy Nicholas, Anchor Salsa Shack, 1101 North Bay Avenue. The applicant is seeking a minor site plan approval from change of use from an office space to retail. Who's representing them?
I'm here by myself. Hi.
Oh, hi, okay.
It's Nichols, by the way.
All right, why don't we have her sworn in? Mrs. Nichols, do you certify the testimony you give tonight will be true and accurate?
Yes.
And will you state your name, please?
Judy Nichols.
And Ms. Nichols, you presented to the board for last month an application to have a retail space. I think it's called, what's the name of the store going to be?
Anchor Salsa Shack.
Salsa Shack. And where's this property located?
It's 1101 North Bay Avenue.
And what was there previously?
So previously, before Sandy, Sprague and Rudman had a office building there, a construction office building, but nobody's been in there since Sandy.
Okay, so it's been vacant?
It's been vacant, yeah. Oh, I think before that it was the lawnmower repair shop or something,
Okay.
and then a retail something else. We're going way back now.
Okay, so you're, what are you listed, tell the board what you intend to do to the site. You did give us a floor plan. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And that floor plan and the application, we're gonna mark for our records as Exhibit A1. And the application has a floor plan attached to it.
Right.
And what's going to go on in the store? What do you intend to do?
So, nobody knows me there. So I live in North Beach on the island, and I have a store in Surf City, a retail store called Anchor Produce, actually right next door to Stu Snyder's legal office. And I have salsa and guacamole that we sell out of our retail store. What just happened? There we go. Oh, he's pulling up the site plan. Anyway, we've been there for 25, 27 years. We've been selling the salsa and guacamole about that long. And it's a big hit. People like it. So my friend owns that property. A friend of mine owns that property, the Close family. And we thought we could make it into like a little, very small, I mean, it's a pretty tight space, but we're going to make it into like a little retail, just selling packaged guacamole and salsa, and maybe little to-go containers with like eat on the as you go. You know, come up and get a little container of chips and salsa, chips and guacamole. We're gonna maybe sell some cold drinks, and that's it.
What are your hours of operation?
We think we're gonna go from like about 10 to maybe 10 or 11 at night if we can. I don't, you know, we'll see how it goes.
So you'd like to try to stay open from 10 in the morning to 11 at night?
Yeah.
And your meeting's going to be outside. You propose 2 benches and 4 top tables. Is that correct?
Well, I just thought it's going to be like a walk-up window, I think, or a, you know, like come in the store and get it, and then maybe you could sit on benches outside. I mean,
There's no waitress or waiter service, is that?
no, nothing like that. And it's strictly going to be, you know, guacamole and salsa. It's not going to have any, we're not doing any other prepared foods or to-go foods. It's a pretty tight spot.
I noticed on your application, hours of operation were from 11 to 7. So you're thinking of staying open longer? Just
Well,
for foot traffic?
I recently was told that there is a lot of foot traffic there at night. So, you know.
Okay. Well, when I originally saw this, I was concerned about people coming in your shop. I didn't know if you were going to have any seating inside, but I see that you're not.
No,
Because I was concerned about the size of the bathroom and it wasn't handicap accessible.
no, it's tiny. It's very tight.
So you could not ever have tables in your restaurant.
Well, yeah, it's not really a
Okay.
restaurant. Yeah.
All right. I just want you to know that.
Okay.
Because once you put tables in there, then it's got to be, the bathroom has to be handicap accessible.
That's all. Okay.
Okay?
My concern is that the tenant that lives in the apartment upstairs no longer has a driveway to park in if you have your benches and bistro tables outside.
Yeah, the owner has talked to the tenant and let her know that there is, you know, for the season only, obviously. We're
When it's
only-
hardest to park.
Yeah, it's going to be alternative street parking, and she is aware of that.
Anybody else have any questions?
Ms. Nichols, is this the property right, this is the property right next to the Mod Hatter, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I drove by it and I was, you know, riding my bike around it. I mean, it just looks like a big house to me. So,
It's the garage.
It's it's the garage underneath. There's a tenant upstairs.
oh, okay. So it's the garage. So this is coming right out of Bay Avenue. That's where the,
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And are you deep frying your chips, or is this because I saw?
No, we'll probably just have Frito-Lay come in there with bags of chips, that kind of stuff.
So you're making your own salsa and guacamole.
We would be preparing that food. We'd be, delivering those, that produce and preparing that food on site, but no cooking.
Okay. I mean, Bonnie, since this is a relatively a new thing to me, what is that? I mean, doesn't this have to pertain to like health department requirements?
Yes, well, that all comes after we
Okay.
decide. Yeah.
Right.
Health department comes in and does all that later.
Gotcha. So what about the trash? Where are you going to put that?
We would have to work that out, I guess. There's a little alley on the side, I think, that we would have, maybe, just a couple of trash cans. I don't think we're going to be needing anything like big, like dumpsters or anything. It's going to be pretty small.
Okay. Covered porch area.
Is there isn't there a staircase going up where the covered porch area is labeled with the tables and chairs?
No, it's to the right. It's actually fenced in. She has a chain link fence. So she goes into a chain link fence and then goes up the stairs.
So yeah, so it's separated from everything.
Right.
And then do you see yourself having a lot of deliveries,
No, not really. I mean, I see maybe like a small delivery truck delivering some produce. And, we don't really have a set plan yet, but I'm thinking that we may even be delivering it ourselves from our shop in Surf City and just bringing it down in like a truck or something. I can't imagine that it's going to be, big deliveries, just like a small SUV or a van. I mean, we may sell like cold drinks, so I guess like a Pepsi truck or something might come up, but they go right to the 7-Eleven, they'll probably stay right in the same spot.
I mean, I think you have room for benches, but I don't know if you're going to have enough room for bistro tables.
I put that out there, and I don't really know either. It's going to have to be a kind of see how it goes. They would be really small if we did.
Yeah, I mean, I would see you have like where I'm looking on my Google Earth image here, and I could see like, 2 benches, a takeout window, to, I guess, move some of your product from Surf City.
Right.
Right. But I don't know if you're going to think you're going to fit any bistro tables.
Put it there on like thinking maybe we could, but I don't really know that we would be able to.
Yeah, because I think you might be moving on to the borough right away.
Good. Yeah, it's only 11 feet wide.
Right. It's small.
Okay, any other questions for it?
No.
No? All right. I will open it. Can I have a motion to open it to the public, please?
I so move. Penny?
Second, Tom.
Second,
Tom.
Tom.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this application? You can either raise your hand or unmute, and if you could also unvideo so that we can see you. Turn on your video. There is no one from the public.
Okay. I'll close to the public. Can make a motion if you want to go through the. Can I have a
Motion
motion
to
to
close.
close it to the public?
Motion to close, Tom.
Tom, second.
I second that, Nicole. Baxter.
Nicole, okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve or disapprove of this application for the Salsa Shack?
I so move to approve. Penny?
Penny? Do I have a
I
second?
second, Scott.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Cactus? I didn't hear you, Don. Did you say yes?
Yes.
You're not on.
Okay. Mrs. Baumiller?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Pisano?
Yes.
Mr. Meadow?
think it would have been nice to hear from the tenant upstairs. I'm going to say no.
Mr. Horensky,
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
Mr. Genna.
Yes.
Application was approved.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thanks so
Much
much.
success.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to application 2020-09, John P. Brennan. Applicant proposes to subdivide the existing lot into 2 lots, service station and all associated improvements removed. The lots will be improved with single-family dwellings. This application has been before us before. It was carried, then it was carried again, and now they're back. So who's representing? Jim?
Yes, good evening. James Raven on behalf of the applicant, John Brennan.
Okay.
Stu, did you want to mark the new exhibits?
Hold on 1 second.
Sure.
All right, hang on a second. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. We received revised plans on this application from Studio. We have a new plan entitled Minor Subdivision, which was submitted by Horn, Tyson, and Yoder. And that was dated December 6, 2019. I'm sorry. With a revision date of September 8th, 2020. We'll mark that into evidence. What's the account that you have, Jim?
This would be A5.
A5?
Yes.
A5 under today's date, which is 10/5/20. We received architectural drawings and we have a set of drawings prepared by Studio Taglin, and they're showing houses on new lots. This is proposed subdivision, lots 201 and 202, block 170. The date is September 2nd, 2020. Sheet 1 shows the site layout. We have sheet 2 shows plans and elevations for lot 2.01. Sheet A3 or drawing A3 shows plans and elevations for lot 2.02. And those are the 3 sheets. This is going to be exhibit A6. We also received a review letter from Mr. Little. I just had it here. Excuse me. And that's it's titled Second Review. It's dated September 18th, September 28th, 2020, and that is going to be exhibit B1, B2. Those are the only exhibits I have for this evening's meeting. Do you have any additional exhibits, Mr. Little or Colleen? Anything else submitted?
No.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rabin, do you want to call your first witness?
Sure. And before I do that, I'll catch the board up to speed. We were last before the board back in June, and at that time, the proposed subdivision had 2 4,000 square foot lots fronting on 5th Street. And well, technically the boulevard lot was going to front on the boulevard, but there was 40 feet of frontage for each of the proposed lots on Fifth Street. And the board raised concerns due to the ordinance that requires all lots fronting on Bay Avenue to really have facades on the front of the building that demonstrate that they're the front of the building. And so what we did was the applicant took the comments into consideration and revised the plan so that now we're proposing two 50 by 80 foot lots, both of which will front on Bay Avenue. And this way there's no issue as to whether or not the houses front on Bay Avenue or Fifth Street. They both clearly front on Bay Avenue. The interior lot will have driveway access on Bay Avenue, and the lot that's going to be the corner lot will have driveway access via Fifth Street. So there's only going to be one lot that actually has driveway access on Bay Avenue. So that's the general overview of the revised plan. At this point, I'll call Jim Brzezowski to testify regarding his proposed minor subdivision plan.
Mr. Brzezowski, do you certify the testimony you give tonight will be true and accurate?
Yes, I do.
State your name, please.
James Brzezowski, I'm a licensed professional engineer and professional planner in the state of New Jersey, and an employee at Horn, Tyson and Yoder since 1997.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Rabin.
Thank you. Mr. Brzezowski, we've submitted a revised plan with a most recent revision date of September 8th, 2020 that we've marked as Exhibit A5. Was that prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, it was.
And would you provide an overview, please, to the board as to what is proposed on this revised plan?
Certainly. This is a 80 by 100 foot lot with 100 foot fronting on Bay Avenue and 80 foot along Fifth Street. And what we're proposing to do is subdivide it into two 50 by 80 foot lots, where each lot has 50 foot of frontage on Bay Avenue. Each lot would then have a lot area of 4,000 square feet. The property's in the business district of Beach Haven. And what we want to do is develop them, each lot with a single family house. So with that, we are kicked into the RA requirements, which requires each lot have 5,000 square feet of lot area. So we're seeking a variance to subdivide this property into two 4,000 square foot lots.
And the proposed plan shows two proposed homes on the lot. Were those just provided to give the board an understanding of what two proposed homes would look like on the lot?
Yeah, basically, because they're the properties that we are creating are undersized, they need a variance for lot area. We're required to provide evidence that a reasonable size single family homes can be constructed on each lot without any additional variances. And that's what this plan depicts, that houses can be constructed on each lot, meeting all the bulk and lot coverage requirements as well as parking.
Okay, and Mr. Brennan is going to testify as to his intentions with the proposed lot. It's my understanding that he doesn't have any immediate plans to develop the lots. So I just wanted to be clear that the exact dimensions of what we're showing on this plan are not necessarily what's going to be constructed, but it will be something of a similar design. And we just want to be held to the bulk requirements of the borough.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. Basically, each house is going to front on Bay Avenue per the ordinance, and they're going to we're going to provide adequate setbacks and meet the lot coverage provisions.
Okay.
And in addition to that, Mr. Little points out in his letter that the frontage of this property on Bay Avenue needs to conform to the streetscape, the borough streetscape design. And we will revise the plan and show compliance with the borough streetscape.
Okay. And the corner lot will be accessed, the vehicular access will be via Fifth Street, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if you wouldn't mind, just give me 1 second. The applicant is in another room in my office here and is having technical difficulties. Give me 1 second, excuse me. Thank you. Sorry about that. And we do have Justin Osciello, who's going to be testifying as a professional planner, and he will get into the variances, but the only variance that's being requested on your plan is the lot area. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And there's adequate parking on each of the 2 proposed homes?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And all of the existing improvements on the site will obviously be removed?
Yeah, the property is currently improved with it was a gas station use. So the gas station, all the pavement, the curbs, it's all going to be removed. The sign, it's all coming out.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When are they coming out?
Why don't we call Mr. Brennan to answer that question? He's having trouble with his video. We'll only be able to hear audio, but he is present.
I'm present, if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Brennan, do you certify any testimony you give tonight will be true and accurate?
I do.
And thank you.
And Ms. Lenhart, if you wouldn't mind just repeating the question for Mr. Brennan.
Mr. Brennan, this is Bonnie Lenhart. My question is, when is this stuff planning to be removed, the building and everything else? I mean, is it, you're coming into us for a subdivision, but you may not build houses there for 5 years. So the town is going to be left looking at that mess for 5 years?
No, as soon as we have our approvals, I would commit to tear the building down and do the curbing, whether we build houses or not, and do the renovations to the sidewalk that the town is requiring.
Okay. And do you know how long it takes for your approvals?
Well, the approvals right here would roughly, I feel, take 90 days if it's approved.
Or you're talking about this approval?
Yes.
Nothing else with the DEP or anybody else, environmental people?
No, the LSRP already has everything under control.
Okay.
Mr. Brennan, how many open cases do you have with the DEP?
I have a minimum of 8 open cases that aren't open. They have CEAs to them.
Because I contacted the DEP and I actually sent this over to Frank. So Frank, maybe you can help me out on this. Is that there's 2 active cases and 1 out of compliance currently.
They're all in compliance, and I can prove that.
Frank, can you chime in here, please?
Yeah, Jamie, when you say they're cases that are out of compliance, are they for this site in particular?
Yeah, they're with this site.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the numbers right now. Case 95-10-5-1109-10, investigation and remediation of a discharge of gasoline through a failed underground product supply line. This case is currently out of compliance. And then case number 19-04-05-0858, where a fiberglass tank was ruptured during removal. The deadline to complete the remedial investigation is 04/2025.
Okay, so those, the one for 2025, Mr. Brennan, can you comment on any of these at this point?
Yes, there's already been a site remediation report that has been done on the tank removals, and all of those soil samples and the wells in that particular site have come in perfectly clean. I don't understand why the DEP doesn't have that on their file, but I can check with the DEP. But I have proof that that's all been completed.
Well, just for the record, any approvals the board gives, obviously the applicant's going to have to resolve any DEP issues before anybody purchases a lot.
That's
and-
correct.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mr. Brennan?
You're correct.
That's correct, right? And
Yes.
then one of my comments in my letter, if not in my letter, was that, if the board approves this, make sure there's a resolution that acknowledges the fact it was a gas station, and quite frankly, want that resolution recorded so that if somebody does come to buy a lot and it has no idea, that they'll be able to find that through a title search and not have an issue that they weren't advised. And I believe Mr. Brennan's done this in Barnegat Light recently with another subdivision under similar circumstances.
That's correct.
Yeah, this is Jim Stevens. My question would be, when do you expect to receive your letter of no further action from DEP?
All my wells are clean except for one, and it just was sampled last week. And unfortunately, it came in at 1.1% for benzene, which is 0.1 over the limit, which is absolutely nothing. So I would have to do another round of sampling in 90 days and see where it comes out. But again, all the wells are clean except for one.
And where is
And
that well? That's not.
That well is in the corner of the property,
Which, the corner of Bay and Fifth?
Bay and Fifth, yes.
And then, Mr. Brennan, is there an actual letter that's issued from the DEP once that well is tested and considered clean?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? And I apologize if it's already been discussed. How is everyone's feeling with having a curb cut on Bay Avenue, a residential curb cut? Has anyone had the conversation of having a shared easement in the back of the two houses so that there aren't cars backing in and out onto the boulevard? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Nicole.
Everyone got quiet, so I didn't know.
This is Penny. I thought we had discussed that at last meeting when we decided to change the position of the homes. We also discussed that too, I thought.
Mr. Brzezowski, are you able to address that question? How is the access going to be provided on Bay Avenue? And is that something that's common and would receive approval from the county?
The county will permit that as long as the driveway is designed in a way that where cars can turn around and pull out onto Bay Avenue head first. So that's the type of driveway that we're showing on that plan, the T-type driveway. As far as an easement across the easterly side of the corner lot to access the second lot, technically an access easement would have to be deducted from the lot area of the corner lot. So instead of a 4,000 square foot lot, we'd be looking at something smaller than that, in the ballpark of 3,500 or square foot or so. So, it would be in the best interest of the subdivision to not create an access easement through the rear of one property to access the other property.
I mean, when you look all around in Beach Haven, you see that everyone's kind of developed. There's always a road behind sites on the boulevard. Traditionally, there's a couple of those conditions. They've been around forever. I just was seeing this and thinking, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I've seen these T-type driveways approved by the county. I don't know how difficult it would be to have an easement all the way behind these without having it at least, 15 to 20 feet wide. The lot now is only 80 foot deep. So, you'd almost have to be pulling cars in along an alley and then being able to back out and turn around and go out Fifth without blocking the easement whatsoever. So you pretty much, you wouldn't be able to subdivide this effectively with a full access easement behind it.
Right, so you think every car that parks at this property is going to back out and pull out correctly?
I can't say that for a fact. They're providing what the county requires. I've seen these driveways. If you drive along some of the county roads, you will see these T-type driveways where people pull in and they'll back into it and try to go out head on.
Isn't this one of the reasons why we shouldn't be providing undersized lots? And we should be really providing the 50 by 100 so there is room for these easements on the boulevard? I mean, we have an undersized lot and we're forcing the one lot to access the county's road, which I know the county has taken a position. They don't want curb cuts on their county road now. And we
this is
make a combination otherwise. So I'm not sure why we're approving undersized lots.
Yeah, I mean, there's undersized lots and you're creating a curb cut on the boulevard.
But I thought in our front facade ordinance, Frank, there was also ingress and egress off of Bay Avenue was not prohibited.
No, it's not prohibited.
So wouldn't that be another ordinance that they would have, or another variance that they would be asking for?
Right, but
But
access,
you guys just said there was only one variance they were going for today.
it's only the lot area. The lot areas are it.
Well, why isn't this curb cut a variance as well?
It's not. There's no prohibition about having a curb cut in our ordinance on Bay Avenue.
But the county has taken a position, if you can accommodate it elsewhere, they want the entrance on the other street.
Well, I don't know if they've taken a hard position on that. There are many lots that do have driveway curb cuts on the boulevard. So it really, the problem would be if we approve this and they can't get a county approval, then that's an outside agency approval they wouldn't be able to obtain and they'd be back before us. But under the land use law, they have a right to come to us first and seek our approvals subject to any outside agencies. But I can tell you, I know for a fact that a T-type driveway on a county road, the county typically would approve that.
I mean, this is a heavy trafficked area. I mean, Tom, if you see this, people are walking by this area in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, both pedestrian and vehicular.
Right.
It's concerning.
Well, look what we just passed with the Salsa Shack. That was a driveway that came right out and in an area that's even more congested. And there's a driveway that they can't even turn around. You have to back out.
Well, that driveway is going to have benches and tables
I
there.
know, but I mean, in the future it was there, and I'm sure there are driveways in town that.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago. I think.
I know, but I'm just telling you.
I mean, just like all new development, you have this. You only have a shot once to do this right.
Before we delve into
But there
further,
seems to be a difference of opinion on what is right. The county thinks one thing and.
Right. Well, now I shouldn't say right, just to
different
develop this properly.
Right.
So if there's two mixed messages, or if the county feels one way and our ordinance is another, I just asked a question.
So
I'm glad you did, Nicole.
We don't have an ordinance that prohibits what they're looking for. We have to deal with the lot size. If you feel the access is an issue, then we're back to the subdivision that we discussed previously where the lots are fronting Bay Ave. And you have 100-foot frontage on the boulevard that you're trying to create a building with a front.
Well, I mean, this is why we have an ordinance that says all new subdivisions need to be 5,000 square feet.
Right.
So we wouldn't have this problem. Or you have an 8,000 square feet lot, then you build a duplex and you have the appropriate ingress and egress that you would properly need for a lot this size. I'm going to have to agree with Jim here. This is why we have these, and this is a safety concern moving forward. That's why we have these on the books.
This is Don.
Don has had his hand raised. Sorry, go ahead, Don.
before we discuss this further, do you think we could hear from the professional planner as well? I think that would make sense before we discuss it further. I'm sorry, Don, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I just feel like it might be beneficial to hear from the professional planner before we discuss this issue further.
Okay.
Okay.
At this time, I'll call Justin Osceola.
Do you certify the testimony you give tonight will be true and accurate?
Yes, I do.
Can you state your name, please? Spell it for me.
Justin Auciello, Auciello, licensed planner in the state of New Jersey since 2007 with Cathone Consulting Group from Red Bank.
I'm sorry.
I
Who are
provided
you with, Mr. Osceola?
Cathone Consulting Group. I provided testimony on matters like this on dozens of occasions throughout New Jersey. The bulk of my testimony that I deliver is in Ocean and in Monmouth counties.
And what is your educational background?
I have a master's degree in planning in 2005, Rutgers University, and I've been licensed since 2007, and my license is current.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think we can qualify Mr. Osceola as a professional planner in this state. Is there any objection by any members of the board?
Nope.
No.
All right, then go ahead, Mr. Osceola. Mr. Raven, your witness.
Thank you. Mr. Osceola, the only variances that we're seeking in this application is the lot area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Would you just give an overview for the board as to why this is a good planning solution? Why this subdivision is appropriate from a planning standpoint?
Yes, absolutely. So as the board is well aware, one variance is required for the lot area. In this application, I think there are three salient points here. Number one, this lot can be subdivided without any impact to the setbacks, to the coverage, and of course will comply with the height. So we are not here this evening trying to receive a lot area variance and trying to shove in or trying to shoehorn in two houses that really do not fit with the character of the lots themselves or the surrounding area. So I think that's number one. We certainly can accommodate two single family homes on these lots that would be consistent with the character of the area. Number two, we do not need a variance for the lot frontage. Each lot will be 50 feet in width. So there's certainly no issue with respect to access from Bay Avenue. Number two, I would say that two single family homes, again, are in character of the area. The streetscaping improvements are consistent with the aims of the master plan and the zone district. And I also think what's proposed is a efficient use of the land as well. Again, we are consistent with the character of the area. To the east is residential, and to the north, west, and south is a mixture of residential and commercial land. I also think as well we're consistent with the master plan, which seeks to preserve the integrity of the residential districts and preserve the overall character and small town charm. Again, the single family character, I think, is more consistent with the surroundings. Certainly from the standpoint of a C2 variance, I would say that the benefits of granting this variance would outweigh the detriments. We would advance many purposes of the MLUL, criteria A, B, C, E, G, I, and M. I think probably the most salient purpose of the MLUL in this instance is the provision of light, air, and open space and sufficient space. I think in this instance, again, by not coming in with an application that requires variances for setbacks or coverage, these two lots can accommodate 2 single-family homes in a safe manner that, again, is consistent with the character of the area. Certainly, from the standpoint of the negative criteria, the granting of these variances would not present a substantial detriment to the public good. Again, I think this is a benefit to the public good by removing a gas station that's on the site, and obviously the improvements to both lots themselves. So I think what you have in front of you as a residential use is a much better use that's more consistent, not just with the area, but the aims of the zone plan and the master plan. And lastly, I don't believe that the granting of these variances would impair the purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. Both uses are permitted. Again, we are only here for the lot area variance, which certainly the granting of the benefits, would outweigh the detriments to the same. So that concludes my planning testimony. I would be happy to take questions.
Any questions?
Arlene, I still have some questions. It goes back to maybe his testimony as others. This is Don Caxton. The one comment about the busyness of that area is very accurate. It's much busier than where Salsa is. And I'm concerned about not only the access to the property from the Bay Boulevard, but also the rear access for the one house. On one drawing, it shows it as 10'9". Another one shows it as an 8-foot setback. Going around that corner, that is a very busy street with everybody going up to the pavilion. And Frank, this is a question for Frank and maybe for the designer. Is that adequate in size for a rear access on the property? I think most of the properties I know are at least 11, 12 feet wide where they have cars parked on them.
Yeah, a lot of our setbacks, typically you could have an 11-foot side yard to pull cars in. So, I mean, I would think that if somebody came along and developed a house on that corner, more than likely they would do a 2-car garage on that side with a 24-foot curb cut. So I know this is a plan just to show that a house will fit. But I think realistically, if somebody does build there, it'll probably be a 2-car garage with a double driveway access from the side.
Frank, if I can, that makes sense, but we've been caught up in this before. I mean, we understand that the architectural plans are substantial, but I would think that if this is approved and that's going to be the case, they came forward tonight with plans to give the Boulevard or Bay Avenue some architectural integrity based upon the drawings that we have. And I think the board, if it did approve this, would rely upon the Boulevard or Bay Avenue retaining that look. We ran into difficulty in a couple applications where there were not architectural plans and the board suffered some criticism. So I think it's important, if you're allowing the street with all the time and effort being developed by the governing body and the borough to increase their streetscape and to try to make get some sort of Main Street effect, that if this is approved, that there's going to be the architectural integrity. I agree with you that it makes sense to do a double garage on 5th Street and accommodate parking more so, if they can, than having it the way it's shown on the plan behind the house. But as a practical matter, we'd want to retain, and I think any approval would have to retain the integrity of the Bay Avenue or the westerly exposures. I mean, when they first came to us, it looked, well, we had a great wall along Bay Avenue, which the board was not satisfied with. And I just think it's important that they maintain notice of that. And I think it's an important consideration when you're getting into this type of development, especially at this location.
Dude, this is Don Caxton. I agree with you 100%. And it even goes to the point where the architects show garage doors on Bay Avenue for both these houses. I would have a hard time approving this application if the architectural plans weren't truly representative of what's going to be built there. and not something that's in somebody's idea of just showing us a set of drawings. I have a real problem with garage doors on Bay Avenue with no access to those garage doors. I have a real problem with, probably a garage being on Fifth Street without being shown on the drawings. So, and I have concern about the traffic, just like everybody else does, because that is a very busy spot. The other point I would like to make is that that property has been unsafe and an eyesore for quite a few years now. The streetscape, the sidewalks, I mean, I know there was some work being done in there, but it really is unsafe. There's cracked sidewalks. I know, I think there's probably just some stone on the ground now. It's a real eyesore to the downtown area. And if anything was ever approved, I would like to have a condition upon the fact that that would be put into a better situation, whether it be landscaped or with new improved sidewalks immediately, and not wait until somebody develops that property.
Don, Mr. Brennan testified that he would do it in 90 days.
He would actually, what would he do? I want to know, what would he do?
I would tear the building down. I would turn around and put all the landscaping and the walkways that are required by the town.
And the landscaping, because there is landscaping required there too.
Whatever is required by the town within 90 days, I would have all the curb cuts redone, all the curbing pulled out, and tear the building down. And I'd also put in the sidewalks, the special sidewalks that are required
And now,
instantly.
and then would there be, and maybe this goes to Tom, maybe you have some thoughts on this too, Tom Metal. I mean, what we saw with the property next door to it for a long time was, even though those things were done, it became an accumulation of broken bottles and people just throwing junk and debris onto that property where the old bank building was for a number of years.
Oh,
I would want to have the developer, Mr. Brennan, assure that it would be properly maintained and it would be kept clean. Because again, I remember walking past the property where the old bank building was, and it was just junk all over the place. People were throwing, empty containers onto that property. I mean, LPG gas containers and stuff like that. So I think there would be just the landscaping, but it would also have to be maintained.
A lot of, I've seen in places where they'll put a temporary fence up where the proposed development is, but will do the streetscape and do the sidewalks and the landscaping and everything around it, so that at least there's fencing so people aren't running all in the lot or, at night.
Yeah, I would request that that be done also, Nicole, because I think, again, I see what happens. Developers come in, they leave the property empty. It's nice that Mr. Brennan's going to do the streetscaping, but I also want to make sure that it doesn't become a depository to a lot of junk from people just throwing it onto the property.
It's an attractive nuisance right now for kids to go in there and do whatever. That's the only time we have any issue with it is during the summer.
Yeah. That's all I have to say.
Are there any other questions?
Frank, I have a question again. I mean, I'm reading the front facade ordinance right in front of me, and it says, to the extent possible, driveway or garage access from Bay Avenue shall be prohibited.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real struggle here with this application because you have to really decide if you really want to grant the variance. I mean, obviously this could be done the other way as it originally was proposed, or a duplex could be built here and meet that requirement. So I'm hearing from board members that are very concerned about access to Bay Avenue, and that's a reason to deny this application if you feel strongly about it. In which case the applicant has two choices. Again, come back with buildings facing Fifth Street, or withdraw the application completely and decide on how to build a duplex at a later date. The other problem here is that the ordinance requires the front facade to face Bay Ave. So I guess if you built a duplex, I'm not sure how that architecturally would look. One side would have to face Bay Ave, the other side would have to face Fifth Street probably. We don't have any architecturals for that, and that's not on the table tonight. So if the board feels strongly about the safety issues on Bay Avenue, then that's a consideration you have to look at in terms of whether you want to approve this or not.
Okay, thanks you, Frank. Are there any other comments before I open it to the public? Okay, can I have a motion to open this application to the public?
I so move. Penny?
Second?
Second. Joe, second.
Oh, Joe?
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this application? You could either raise your hand or unmute yourself, and if you could please start your video so we can see who's speaking. No one would like to comment? There's no public comment.
Okay. All right, can I have a motion to close the public comment?
Motion to close, Tom.
Second, Penny.
All right, is there any further discussion amongst the board about this application? We have lots of ways to go, I guess.
Again, this is Don Caxis, and I just repeating what Stu had said, that I think that I would like to see an accurate architectural representation of what's going to be built, that we would hold the developer accountable on this property before we approve it.
Okay.
I agree with Don.
Okay.
I agree also. I am also against the egress to the Bay Avenue on the one house. If there's some way he can come back with some kind of a different access to that house, different plan, a more accurate plan, that would be great.
This,
Scott?
Jim Stevens, I agree also. And I like to stress the off-street parking. And if there is a garage, that we really need the 18 feet before the property line so that they're legitimate. I don't know how
Right.
the thing is going to be configured.
Right.
I mean, and ideally there'd be some sort of access easement down the side for that second unit.
Well, I think the board got burned once before by not having accurate architectural plans. And so I just think if anybody's going to come before us on Bay Avenue, we need definite architectural plans so we can make a smart decision. So I think, Joe, did you have something you wanted to say?
No.
Joe Pisano?
No, I didn't at this point. I originally looked at the architectural drawings and thought they looked nice because both buildings were facing Bay Avenue, but I do have concerns enough to vote no on it because I do not want to see a driveway crossing the sidewalk,
Right.
especially if one of the vehicles is driving south on Bay Avenue and has to turn left and get the traffic to stop and then have to race across the highway, this Bay Avenue to get to the sidewalk, only to see people walking along the sidewalk. I just see a disaster there. So that alone concerns me. I don't know what the architectural answer is. I know that right now it's horrific the way it looks and is really not a real description of what our town should be like in any sense of the word. So in short term would be something someone raised about putting a fence up and doing the streetscape. At least it would look nice for the time until we can make a good decision for the people in our town, especially during the summer. But I would have to vote, if I were to vote now, I know we're not ready to vote, but I would have to vote no.
Well, I can also add, having a business that has a driveway that opens onto Bay Avenue with a sidewalk, a wide sidewalk that goes in front of it, it's extremely dangerous because we have bikers on the sidewalk, even though that's illegal. Yep. We have people riding and walking. And so it is a dangerous situation. You really have to be aware of it. So I think Nicole brought up a very important point, the one that I had not thought of, about this driveway entering onto Bay Avenue. It's just an unsafe situation. And I think we have one chance to do it right, like she said, and that's just how I feel about it. Anybody else?
I think Scott has something to say.
Given the volume of pedestrian traffic into the late evening and much of it being adolescents, I think it's a recipe for disaster with having cars come in and out of that driveway on Bay Ave.
Right. I think most of us are feeling that way.
Hey, Frank, this is Tom. I have a question for you. We talked about it, I think, with the Burris property in the old bank building. They cannot put angled parking in that block area, can they?
I think the county was frowning on it unless it existed, but I mean, at some point we were going to talk to the county again. They were considering angle parking down by Pearl Street between Pearl and Ocean. And we did send them a plan and they did technically approve it, but then they came back to us with concerns about Marine Street and people backing out. So that hasn't materialized at this point. So, you know, typically their stance was if there wasn't angle parking previously existing, they wouldn't permit new angle parking. So worst case scenario, you may get parallel in there once if nobody has a driveway out on the Bay Avenue.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, are we ready? Can I have a motion to approve or disapprove this application?
I'll make a motion to disapprove this application pending better architecturals so that we can see, or maybe a redrawing, something that makes more sense for the use for that area.
I'll second that, Penny.
Stu, if you can make sense of that for me. I know that was a terrible speak I just said there, but
Did very well, Tom.
The motion is to deny. Mr. Cactus,
Yes, deny.
Mrs. Baumiller,
Yes, deny.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes, deny.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes, deny.
Mr. Middle,
yes, deny.
Mr. Horensky,
Yes, deny.
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes, deny.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes, deny.
Mr. Genna.
Yes, deny.
Application was denied.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That's it for tonight. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Don't you have
We have
that?
to go back to the resolution, right?
Oh, that's right. We have to go back to that. Stu, did you do that?
I did. I'm going to send it over right now. Hang on one second, please. Find. File. Insert. Attach. All right, I just sent the resolution over. If you look at the bottom of page 6, I added the language and making the drainage a condition. And you may want to take a quick look at that and make sure it satisfies everybody. Just so you're aware, the only addition is that I said, be it further resolved that this approval is subject to and conditioned upon applicant providing adequate gutters and leaders, lot grading and French drains to assure satisfactory drainage on both lots. And I gather that's enough to alert the building department and to take a look at it. And the other thing is this resolution has to be recorded because there were certain limitations to the development on the lots, and I think it was approved based upon the scale that's being proposed by the applicant here.
Okay.
So that way we don't lose it in the shuffle.
Does everybody understand that? And, okay. Can I have a motion to approve resolution number 2020-13 for Amber Street LLC?
I so move. Penny Eddles.
Somebody second.
Second, Jamie.
Okay.
Mrs. Ballmiller,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Pisano,
Yes.
Mr. Meadow,
Yes.
Mr. Horensky,
Yes.
Mrs. Lenhard,
Yes.
Mrs. Eddles,
Yes.
and Mr. Genna.
Yes.
Resolution was approved.
Okay, I just have one quick question for Frank. Frank, what's going on with the chicken or the egg and the sign? Who's taking care of that?
Good question. They gave us a number of sign examples and left it up to the board to pick one. And
So you're saying it's our job to pick a sign,
unfortunately,
color and
that's
style?
how it was left in the resolution.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not good with colors, so. And there's a lot of eggs and chickens on that sign. And I don't know how many eggs and chickens you want to see.
I know.
So I
All
don't know
right,
if you want to
everybody.
form a little sign committee and figure it out, but
That's
I,
right. This is your homework for the next meeting.
yeah, everybody's got to
Take out these pictures of these signs. Think about a color for the awnings, what you like. Come on, everybody's got an artistic side to them. So we got to get this off the docket. This has been hanging. The other thing has been hanging is Polly's dock. Did you ever get a seating thing for that?
No, we've never received revised plans for them to be in compliance with their resolution. So at this point, they had the original number of seats that were permitted, and until they come in with a revised plan, they're not allowed to have any more than what they previously were approved for. And we have not seen anything for resolution compliance for a new.
So is that really, whose job is it to go after them? Is that code
No,
enforcement?
it basically, I guess, I think it comes down to the zoning officer now that enforces the resolutions.
So it's Joanne's
So
job?
unless somebody goes out there and sees more than I think what they're permitted.
But
which
the resolution is not effective.
Right.
The resolution's not effective until they submit the plans and they get approval. So if they're violating what was previously approved, that's the law in place at that site.
You're right, Stu, but I guess the concern is, are they putting more seats than they're permitted from the original approval? And that's enforcement. If somebody notices they have more seats than what they're supposed to have.
I think this is something important that you guys are all talking about, and to really hear when we decide to grant variances, there's a resolution.
Right.
And who's really, really aware of it and who's making sure that everyone's following the intention of what we approve at these
resolution. Well, that's not our job.
This is a perfect example.
Right.
Well,
but whose job is it? It's if you've got somebody that's only there, 3 days a week?
Right.
That's running around counting chairs and everything else. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know what
none of these things get enforced unless somebody complains. So,
Right.
I mean, nobody runs out there to do anything unless somebody calls and says, hey, they got 60 seats and they're only allowed 41. I mean, Joanne Talon, our zoning officer, is not arbitrarily walking around with resolutions in her pocket, looking at every property that's been approved to find out if it's in violation. Typically,
not to mention the problem with this would be is it'll be on a weekend when she's not there.
Right. And somebody has to call and then you have to have somebody go out and count. That's
so in essence, it seems like we pass a resolution.
Right.
It goes in a drawer, and then unless somebody complains about the number of seats or the number of boats, which has happened.
Right.
What's the big deal?
That's why you rarely pass variances.
Well, you know, right now, the problem with that whole site is that they have a resolution of approval that requires them to submit an updated site plan. And it needs to be signed off by the board, by myself, the chairwoman, and the secretary. And we don't have anything that's been presented to us for me to write a final letter and say this complies. So they have a conditional approval and they haven't met the conditions. So as a result, they're not allowed to do any more than what they previously had.
Well, how long ago do we approve that?
June, wasn't
This
it?
year,
May,
June, July, something like that.
No, it was before that.
Put it on the agenda to take further action as far as rescinding it based upon failure to comply?
Well, how long is that?
You can keep track of it if there's a rescission.
Well, I mean, how long is that approval good for, Stu?
Well, it's a site plan is usually good for a year or two, but this was a variance. A variance, I think we allow them to go for a year.
Well, if that's the case, in 1 year, if they haven't complied, they no longer have the resolution.
Everybody put that on your calendar. Because we can't do anything now.
I mean, site plan and subdivisions have statutory times, but I think our time period has always been a year.
Okay.
So that means I'll be back next May.
Was May when we did it? I didn't know. I thought it was June.
Or they come back and comply. All they have to do is comply. I think the idea of doing this was to accommodate people so they don't have to come back. I mean, you know, a trip to the board is a few $1,000s for most people.
Well, then why don't they comply? I mean, I don't feel sorry for them having to spend a few $1,000s if they're not going to comply with what we so generously offered them.
No, I'm not talking about them particularly. I'm just talking about in general. That's why we try to accommodate, you know, members of our community, but it's up to them to follow up. I mean.
All right. Well, that's enough.
I had an idea too. The mercantile license, when we have to pay our $100 or $125, at that point, before it gets reissued, someone does a spot check on our businesses.
Who does that?
I'm saying that's an idea.
No, nobody actually does it. They just issue it at this point, right? The mercantile.
Yeah, I mean, I could write anything on that, and you know.
Yeah.
I think everyone's very busy in Borough Hall. That's my point, and that we do. I think as a land use board, you have to be very careful. We all want to do something and help everyone out, but it always winds up.
Well, you know, Nicole, no good deed goes unpunished.
Exactly.
That's why I mentioned the architectural drawings tonight, because every time you try to count on somebody doing what we think is the proper thing, hi James, we try to count on the proper thing, we don't get it. And I guess it's human nature, but in the meantime, that's something we have to consider. And we have been considering, I think, more of late than we had over the years. You get hardened to it.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move, Penny.
Second?
Second,
I'll
Amy
second.
and Tom.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Have a
Good
good
night.
night.
Thank you.